Thank you for being here. I'm Rosemary Altman, Chairwoman of the Mississippi Board of Education, and we are pleased that you've joined us this morning. We've had a little difficulty, but we're ready to go. We're not too much late. I am present in the boardroom at the Mississippi Department of Education, and this meeting of the Board of Education is being held today, which is March the 11th, 2021 at 10 a.m. Via teleconference and video means pursuant to Mississippi Code annotated section 25415. Notice of this meeting was posted in accordance with state law and included the date, time, place, and the purpose of the meeting, and identified the location of the meeting, which is available to the public. An audio recording is being made, and minutes of this meeting will be recorded. And the meeting is also being live streamed, so we are pleased that for those of you who have joined us live stream. Dr. Carrie Wright is present at the boardroom at the Mississippi Department of Education, and she will also participate in this teleconference meeting. We do have a quorum now, and so as I call the names of the board members, please state your location and you're present at this meeting, your location simply being the town where you are.
Present in Jackson, Mississippi.
Okay, Mr. Glenn East.
Present in Gulfport, Mississippi.
Dr. Karen Nealon.
Present in Oxford, Mississippi.
Dr. Ronnie McGehee.
Present, Madison, Mississippi.
Mr. Omar Jamil.
Present in Hernando, Mississippi.
And Ms. Amy Zane.
Present in Starkville, Mississippi.
Okay, a quorum of the board.
A quorum of the board is present at the location stated for the purpose of conducting a meeting through teleconference and video means. The March 11th, 2021 board meeting is now called to order at 10:05 a.m. Since this is a teleconference meeting, please identify yourself when asking questions, making comments, or making motions. And please mute yourself at other times so that we can avoid background noise. We will have our Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. I will lead the pledge, and I've asked Mr. East if he will lead the invocation. So if you will join me in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If you will, please bow with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you for guidance as we discuss the educational journey we travel, as we as a group are challenged to provide an outstanding education to every student that calls Mississippi home. Please reach out your hand of guidance to every teacher in our state as they continue to work diligently with our children each and every day. Keep our care workers safe as they undergo the tremendous task of helping protect us all during this current pandemic. And though we may fail you often, please continue to provide us those constant reminders that it is together we are able to find significant success. Amen.
Thank you. Our first item for action is approval of the minutes from the February 25th, 2021 board meeting. You have been supplied the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve those?
Glenn East, motion.
Okay, Mr. East, we have a second.
Second, Ronnie McGehee, Madison.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, motion carried. Our next item is approval of our agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? If so, we need a motion now.
So moved, Karen Elam.
Okay. Second?
Second,
We have-
Angela Bass.
Okay. All in favor to approve the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
They need to all.
Okay, we need to all vote, either say aye or give me a thumbs up or something so that we know that, okay.
Aye.
Aye.
So we know we have a passing vote, okay. The agenda is approved as presented. Are there any items on the consent agenda that you would like to pull out for discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain then a motion that, well, hearing none, the agenda will stand as it is. We'll move now to the report of the
state superintendent.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Altman. This was a kind of a brief period of time between our two meetings, so a little bit happened, but some very important things happened. First, I want to talk about my Student Advisory Council because they are an amazing group of people, and Omar and Amy, I think you would concur with that. Between our meetings, they set up subgroups with various topics that they wanted to be working on. And so in between the two meetings, the subgroups worked and then came to the last meeting and did their presentations. And their presentations were on the following topics. Training, additional training that they felt their teachers needed in this virtual world. ACT, SAT recommendations on how to improve our scores. The other group, improving virtual learning and what that would entail. There was a subgroup on social justice and the need to be addressing social justice issues in our schools, to include a social justice a club, if you will, that would meet after school, and also ways to address social and emotional issues among students. So we spent all of our time allowing these presentations, and they were so thoughtful and so amazing. So we scheduled another meeting because I wanted to have an opportunity to really respond to what they had said, because they really put a lot of thought into this. So I want to thank them publicly for that. I met with my Teacher Advisory Council, first half of it. The second half, I think, is next week. Always a great discussion, a great way to get information directly to teachers, and a great way for them to get information back to their staffs. The National Assessment Governing Board met for 2.5 days last week. We are currently reviewing a proposed change to the reading framework by which the NAEP assessment will be administered. So a lot of discussion around that, and we're looking to move forward to voting on that either summer or fall. I also held a meeting with the entire department virtually with all employees to keep them apprised of what is going on, to remind them where we were, what we've done during this pandemic, and what we've got moving forward. I also, along with Dr. Gavin and Pete Smith, met with both the Senate and House appropriation chairs, our education chairs, and elbow staff to really discuss the cuts to our budget, which are right now, as they're being proposed, significant. The agencies, that came out that the agencies were supposed to have been cut anywhere from 2.5% to 3.5%, when in fact our budget right now is being proposed to be cut by 35%, or $7 million. So that is a significant piece, and we felt that these conversations are needed. We are getting close to the end of session. Sine die, I think, is at the end of this month, and so this is coming up pretty quick around what's going to happen with our budget. I'll keep you posted. And the only speaking engagement I did, but one that's very near and dear to my heart, I was the opening keynote at the Advancing Inclusive Principal Leadership. It is a statewide initiative that is put on by CCSSO, and it's talking about the importance of the role of the principalship in addressing the needs of students with disabilities. And I was really excited because then I got a chance to interview a Mississippi team that was there to be recognized for their hard work. And that included Debbie Burson, Robin Lamonis, and Christy Hunt from the department, Ben Burnett from William Carey, Jocelyn Whips, who's an assistant principal in Rankin County, and Colleen Barr, who was a teacher in Ocean Springs. And so they each brought their own perspective on what can we do to address the needs of students with disabilities. So lots more on that to come, but a very, very important topic. As you well know, students with disabilities is the lowest performing subgroup that we have. And so we're excited to really dig into this work and help our principals build their capacity as we continue to build teacher capacity on how to address those needs. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. I have spent the last couple of weeks since Dr. Dean departed, getting up to speed on things. I have met with Dr. Wright and I met with Dr. Dean. And as part of that, I have appointed subcommittee chairs because a lot of our work is done through subcommittees. So I'm going to announce those. Each of you are aware of your assignment, but the first one is the Academic Achievement Pre-K and Early Childhood. We have combined some committees because we're running a pretty lean board here, waiting on some appointments. So we felt that in order to maximize the time spent, that we would combine some committees. So the first one is the Academic Achievement Pre-K and Early Childhood. I've asked Mr. East to be the chair, and the members are Dr. Elam and myself, and Dr. Oakley and Dr. Dent are the MDE advisory members of that committee. The second one is Educator Quality Subcommittee. Dr. Elam is the chair of that, along with members Dr. Ronnie McGehee and Dr. Angela Bass. And the MDE advisory persons are Dr. Corey Murphy and Dr. Paula Vanderford. The Legislative Committee, which is very active during the course of the legislature, obviously, in preparing for the upcoming legislative sessions. I will serve as chair of that. Dr. Elam and Mr. East are members, and they work alongside Mr. Pete Smith. The School Performance and Accountability Subcommittee, Dr. Angela Bass is the chairman. Mr. East and myself will serve on that, and Ms. Amos is our MDE advisory, along with Dr. Vanderford. Workforce, Career, and Technical Education, Dr. Ronnie McGehee is the chairman of that committee, Mr. Glenn East, and myself. Ms. Clemens, Wendy Clemens is the MDE advisory, along with Dr. Oakley. When we get more new members, when we have appointments, then we'll relieve some people perhaps of their multiple assignments and plug new people in. In case you haven't gotten the message, we need some board members. So anyway, maybe we'll get that message out there. We will now have our student representative reports. Omar, are you there?
There you are.
Yes, I'm here. Good morning, all. I've been in steady contact with my peers and teachers across the district, DeSoto County District, and we have discussed a number of issues that pertain to state-affiliated matters, including those addressed in our Student Advisory Council meetings. In regards to the ACT, both new and veteran teachers desire more consistent training, whether state-sponsored or ACT-sponsored. And our teachers believe that funding assistance for these ACT training modules that prove to be expensive will also prove to be fundamental for improving the scores of our students. And as addressed by our Student Advisory Council and educators in my region, there's a growing demand for the free ACT to be administered during the underclassmen years of students so that improvements can be made in a timely manner for college preparation. And I understand that this issue proves most problematic to students and teachers alike. And that our Student Advisory Council has been working diligently to amend these conflicts in the education sector, as Dr. Wright mentioned previously. But I would like to propose a new idea to our State Board of Education that I believe could provide much insight to a number of issues in education. For the past 2 years that I've served on this board, I've heard of the doings of the Teacher Advisory Council and the improvements being made by the Teacher Advisory Council. And with the new adoption of our Student Advisory Council, we are also creating amendments to our education sector that will prove fundamental in these upcoming years for the next generation. What I'd like to propose is that for our Teacher Advisory Council to have lines of communication with our Student Advisory Council, because I find that it's kind of useless to approach an issue without the entirety of our manpower consisting of students and teachers working together, especially considering that a lot of these issues blend together in regards to teacher training or ACT or scores or whatever you can think of. There's always a middle ground between students and teacher issues. I believe it could be a vital support system to improving the well-being and the academic standards of students and teachers. if we can have our teachers and student advisory council come together, just like how our student advisory council has been.
That's a great idea, Omar. Let me think about how to logistically do that, but I do think that's a great idea. I think that your voice has been so powerful and the voices on the council have been so powerful. Likewise with the teachers. So I think having the two of them connect at some point to discuss those things in common is a fantastic idea. I'll make that happen.
Yeah, and I completely understand that. I mean, of course, the Student Advisory Council is comprised of a great deal of students, and I bet the Teacher Advisory Council is composed of just as many. And logistically, it's going to be kind of hard to manage that. But if we could maybe have, like how we've been doing with our Student Advisory Council, having these small little groups communicate over these isolated issues, if you could just have the teachers kind of mimic that and then just combine these issues together and seeing how it works on the teacher aspect and on the student aspect, both students and teachers will kind of gain a new respect for one another in these issues and just understand just how broad and just how deep this issue goes with both students and teachers. Just kind of understanding the issue from both perspectives, or at least a number of other perspectives, I think is truly fundamental.
Okay, thank you, Omar. We appreciate that. Amy, do you have, Ms. Dang, are you there and you have a report?
Yes, I do. I would like to share something exciting that I'll be participating in 2 weeks. It's the Student Mental Wellness Summit for the National Consortium of Specialized STEM Schools on March 25th. At this summit, I'll have the opportunity to speak on a student panel consisting of 5 students from member schools, and we'll be presenting on successes and barriers in schools and offering student perspectives. The meeting's audience will mostly be educators and administrators. So much like with the Board of Education, it's important for student voices to be heard, especially because this deals with mental health that's present in our everyday lives, even outside of school. And I will be incorporating some things from the Student Advisory Council subgroup that presented on mental health and emotional wellness. So we had a meeting earlier this week for the panel, and our focus right now is mainly on the unique mental health struggles of being a student at a STEM school, what improvements students would like to see, and things that are working well that more schools should implement. A few of the topics we'll most likely be discussing are the community amongst students, how to better facilitate communication between students and administration, improving access to resources such as mental health counselors, increasing student outreach and leadership in schools community, helping teachers better understand our struggles, and the impact that COVID has had on emotional health. The meeting also made me appreciate some things that my school, which is MSMS, has. For example, we have a very strong student community, especially since we're a residential school. And I think that is very important for a school's overall environment. And the clubs and classes that we have foster a student's interests, and there's a healthy and trusting relationship between students and teachers. So those are some things that MSMS is doing that I wanted to highlight. And I want to end by saying that mental health is a very important issue that I'm very passionate about. It greatly impacts the quality of a person's education, and I'm really looking forward to this mental health summit and spreading more awareness.
Great, thank you. And I know you'll be
a good representative. You and Omar have really done a good job, an excellent job in moving these ideas forward. You're very thoughtful, you're very organized, and you're doing exactly what we anticipated that the student representatives would be. And so we thank you. We know you both are very busy young people. You're very much dedicated to your academics, so I know it takes your time away from your academics, but we appreciate the effort that you're putting into this, and you're lifting some really good ideas that I think will lay the groundwork for some significant changes and some things that will come out of this that will be very impactful. So thank you both for the work you're doing. We have had one subcommittee meeting. Dr. Bass, would you like to report what happened this morning in the subcommittee meeting?
Yes.
Surprise! This was her first meeting, so she's learning the ropes too. Go ahead.
Yes. So the accountability subcommittee met this morning, and we are gearing up to appoint the selection committee that will be in charge of selecting the new student representatives. And so we did approve 5 representatives that will be on that selection committee and carrying forth the process to select the new student representatives in the upcoming month. I will say that, you know, they have some big shoes to fill. Amy and Omar have done such a spectacular job, and they really set the bar for what student representatives should be doing on the state board. And so it was a very short meeting, and that was the extent of it. So anybody have any questions about what happened?
Thank you.
The screening committee, we had 79 applications this year, which is great. So there's no small task lying before them. They're members of the department. Dr. Ball will head that up, and members of the department will screen to make sure that everything is in order, and they will rank the top 10, which I don't know how you're going to get 10 out of 79 because they're all such outstanding young people. But then the 10 will be interviewed, and then as it is eliminated, as we get it down to 2, then the full board will interview those 2. And Omar, this will be moving off this year. His last meeting, I think, will be in April. So we're looking for somebody to fill some really big shoes because Omar has done a great job. So thank you very much, and we will look forward to that process working. Okay. Are we ready to move into our action items? Okay. Under the Office of Chief Academic Officer, we have action to begin the Administrative Procedures Act to establish a Mississippi Secondary curriculum framework for computer science and engineering and career and technical education. Dr. Oakley?
Thank you, Ms. Altman. We're bringing forward a request to begin APA, the public comments process on a new course for 8th grade students. This is a new addition to our computer science course offerings within the larger computer science standards that were adopted several years ago. This is a course designed for middle schoolers, particularly 8th grade students, that focuses on modeling and design and coding, and really prepares them for exploration at a high level to, in high school, pursue either a computer science, perhaps, pathway, or an engineering pathway on the CTE side. So this is a high-level computer science and engineering course for middle school students. It's a year-long course that we believe fits well into the larger work we're doing with computer science and CTE.
Okay, and this is to begin the APA on this, so we need a motion to approve this. Do I have a motion to begin APA?
Ronnie McGee.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second, Karen Elam.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any opposed? All right. Thank you.
Okay, the next item I have is approval of MDE. Do we have, my agenda is not quite long with, sorry?
items next.
Okay, here we go. I got it. Information, yeah, spring ACT, 2020 ACT results. This is an informational item. Yeah, I got it now. Okay, Dr. Vanford, are you here?
Yes, ma'am,
Okay.
I am. So item 2 is
Action item. This is a joint item between the Office of Accountability and the Office of Academic Education. For those of you that are new board members, each year we report the ACT results for the juniors that are required to take the statewide administration of the ACT. And although the backup material provided to you contains only data related to the 11th grade administration of the ACT, we also report to you data regarding the graduation class for that same year for both public and non-public schools. So the backup material that you have available is a comparison. It does show a comparison between each district and schools results between the 2019 administration and the 2020 administration. And as you know, we did have a interruption with the administration of the junior ACT assessment dates as a result of COVID, but the data that you have provided to you does include the initial administration in February, as well as the fall makeup dates. Unfortunately, for the last couple of years, we have had to report a slight decline in performance of both the juniors and the graduating class. However, this year we do have some really good news that we are on the upward trajectory. However, it may be slight improvements, but we're thrilled to report that we do have improvements in all areas with the exception of one for the juniors that took the statewide administration. At this time, Dr. Oakley is present in the boardroom, and I would like to ask him to walk through the presentation that we have prepared for the board that summarizes the data that's in your backup material.
Thanks, Paula. As
we look at this item in particular, we see a close connection to college readiness for students in particular. We'll talk a little bit about ACT and its use and its design in the next few minutes. But as we consider our vision and mission and the goals, we see a close connection also to goal 2 around students graduating from high school ready for that next step. So a little background information for those of you that may not be familiar with ACT. The ACT is an on-demand assessment. It's given throughout the year. We administer it statewide in our junior class in the spring of the junior year. It's not designed to really measure individual content for specific courses, but rather to be a predictive measure of college readiness, looking at the larger gamut of student coursework in high school, across the English courses, across math courses, science, and then we roll that into a composite score. ACT establishes benchmark scores we'll look at in a few minutes here. They also use ACT as students complete a career interest inventory, and then students provide course-taking patterns that help ACT look at results from different groups of students based on the courses that they took during their high school career. ACT results are reported in 2 different ways. Scale scores, and we're probably most familiar with these, the 1 to 36 range that students can earn in each of the 4 components, as well as a composite. And then ACT, as I mentioned a moment ago, has a benchmark score set for each of those 4 tests, or for each of those content areas. The 18 is for English, the 22 is for mathematics, the 22 is for reading, and 23 for science. And those benchmark scores are really the minimum scores needed on an ACT subject area test or subtest to indicate that a student has a 50% chance of obtaining a B or higher, or about a 75% chance of getting a C or higher in that corresponding credit-bearing college course in that left column. English Comp, Algebra, College Algebra, Social Science, and Biology. Those are also the benchmark scores, as a reminder, that we use in our accountability model to give students credit for that college career readiness component on ACT. So let's dig into our 11th grade results from the 1920 school year. When we look at the 2019-2020 11th grade students, we tested about 1,500 fewer students than the prior year. As Paula mentioned earlier, the assessment was impacted by COVID in the spring. This does include the students who tested last February, as well as students who took one of the makeup exams. Our English score remained level from the 18-19 school year. Mathematics, reading, and science all increased, as did our composite score, up from a 17.6 to a 17.7 for the junior class. When we look at the percentage of students meeting the college readiness benchmarks, we've got this broken out across the bottom for English Comp, college algebra, college science, social science, and college biology, and then met all four on the right-hand side. You can see maintained or slight increases across those different collections of tests there. And you can see the 18, the 19, and the 2020 junior class. We were pleased to see particularly the bump in science, as well as an overall bump in the percentage of students that met all four benchmarks from our junior class administration. So as I mentioned a moment ago, we had fewer students test this year than the last year. We have seen a decrease each year since 2017. That's relatively consistent with what we're seeing with statewide student enrollment across K-12. We did note, and this is typical across other states, as you would expect, students who took more rigorous coursework during their middle school and high school years outperformed those students who took a less rigorous course pattern. It's one of the reasons that we've really pushed for districts to incentivize AP coursework, dual credit coursework, to consider how they can get students into these upper level courses in middle grades and on into high school. Very little composite score change for our subgroups from 19 to 20. We did see a little over half of our districts, 79 districts, showed an increase in score. 49 districts had a slight decrease. 16 showed no change or did not have a prior score, perhaps because of consolidation. So let's dig in now from the junior class to the graduating class of 2020. And this first slide here includes both public and private schools. You'll see some different notations on the coming slides. Again, we saw a decline in the number of students tested in our graduating class of 2020, down about 1,000. We saw a drop in English, math, and reading. Science remained steady, and again saw a slight drop in our composite score for the overall public-private graduating class. For our public only, saw a similar trend, about 1,000 students down on the public school side, 900 or so. Slight drops in English, math, and reading. The composite drop was not as significant as English or reading, but it was 0.2 of a point for our public school only group of students in the 1920 school year graduating class. When we dig back into the benchmarks, this is a public-private composite together. Slight decline in our percentage of students meeting the English Comp, slight decline in college algebra, slight decline in social science, and a return just a little bit on the science or biology connection with the subscore. And then we maintained for our public and private a 12% of students overall that met all four of those college readiness benchmarks in the graduating class. When we shift to look only at public schools, slight decline as consistent with the public and private together. Our public school population is many times larger than our private school population in the state, and so you would not expect to see a big difference here given the heavy weighting on the public school side. We did see a bump similarly on the biology, back up to exceed either of the prior 2 years, and then we maintained a 10% for public only, meeting all four of those college readiness benchmarks. Interestingly, the trend that we've seen statewide as a census state, we give the junior class, all of our juniors, regardless of their general ed or special education ruling, regardless of their pathway forward, we give ACT across the board to our juniors. So we are what we call a census state. We've looked closely at this. The National Center for Assessment has done some work in this area over the last couple of years. We're seeing similar trends, not just in Mississippi, but in other census states where we're seeing this downward trend in ACT performance in those census states. We've requested recently from ACT census data from the other statewide administration states. We've not received that yet, but we are interested in digging in to see how other census states performed, to see if they're similar to the patterns that we're seeing. So be glad at this point to take any questions.
Do any of the board members have questions regarding this or any insight into it?
I would share one
Okay.
related note. Omar mentioned earlier the need for ACT prep and some additional supports there. There was a legislative line item last year that's providing some support to districts for ACT prep. Actually, there are a couple of different lines last year around ACT prep for districts. And then we also, Wendy Clemens and I had a call last week with a group of military staff that do work around college and career preparedness. And one of the resources that we've identified that they've got available is some additional ACT preparedness. It's a website that's free and accessible for students that are interested, whether they're wanting to pursue a career in the military or pursue academic studies after high school. And so we're trying to get that framed up to share out with districts as another resource that may be of interest to them.
I recall last year, one of the most telling things was Shelby Dean, who was on our board last year as a student rep, was talking about the impact that ACT prep had on her. She had gone to school an hour earlier to prep for ACT, and I think, if I recall, she raised her score 4 points in the course of that, and she had a really high score before it was over with, but she was a testament to the impact of ACT prep.
Yeah, and that Clinton High has been doing that, bringing them in even before school starts, and it's quite a large group to come, actually. And so hats off to teachers and principals that are making that happen.
Okay, thank you. Our next information item is report on the 2021 graduation rates for state, district, and school levels. This is also Dr. Vanderford and Mr. Burrow, I assume.
Yes, thank you. So this item is a presentation of our 4-year graduation rates. This is for students that entered the 9th grade and began the cohort in school year 2016-2017 and graduated within the cohort window, which ended July 31st of 2020. So although for new board members, sometimes it's a little bit confusing, but although these are our 2020 graduates, we consider them the graduation and dropout rates for the 2021 accountability system. So because if you recall or are aware that the graduation rates included in the accountability system are lagged by 1 year. The backup material that you have includes a district graduation and dropout rate summary. It includes the district graduation rate sorted by the district name. Also, the district graduation rate sorted by the percentage of graduates. You'll also have a section that contains the district dropout rate sorted by district name, dropout rate sorted by percentage, the graduation rates for students with disabilities sorted by district name followed by percentages. And then you'll have a district graduation rate by subgroup sorted by district name. If I recall, last year, the backup material did not include the section for the district and school level graduation and dropout rates, but that it was requested by some board members following the board meeting. So Mr. Bureau has already in advance included that new section of the report for the board. At this time, he is present in the boardroom, and we have a brief presentation prepared that provides a summary of these graduation rates and dropout rates. And I'll ask him at this time to walk the board through the summary of this data.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Vanderford. As Dr. Vanderford mentioned,
Your mic a little bit closer.
as Dr. Vanderford mentioned, this is a long report with 9 attachments, so I'm just going to touch on some highlights from the report today with the PowerPoint. Okay, so this will touch very closely on Goal 2, that students graduate from high school and are ready for college and career. We calculate graduation rates in accordance with or consistent with federal guidelines regarding the calculation of graduation rates. So we report at the state level and to the Federal Department of Education the 4-year adjusted cohort graduation rate. So that is students that entered the 9th grade for the first time in the 2016-2017 school year and graduated in the spring of 2020. There are 4 statuses that a student can have once they enter a cohort. That is, they can be a dropout, they can be a graduate. That's students that receive a standard diploma in 4 years or less. Students that are a completer, or students that get something other than a traditional standard diploma. Still enrolled, or students that are enrolled the first month of the following year, following the close of the cohort window after 4 years, so 5th year students. And then the adjusted cohort part allows for transfers in and out of the cohort. So if students transfer to a qualifying school, another school or program that culminates in the award of a traditional diploma, if they move out of state, if they move out of country, homeschool, or if a student is deceased. So this is our trend line for graduation rates over the past 6 years, and you can see an increase from last year from 85% to 87.7% this year. Our dropout rate also is a reflection of our graduation rate increase, and is a decrease from 9.7 to 8.8. So we disaggregate all of this data, and we are reporting graduation and dropout rates by subgroup. So this is at the state aggregate. You'll also see in the report that there is a subgroup disaggregation for districts. Okay, and we also point out the impact to students with disabilities. So this is our 6-year history for graduation rate for students with disabilities, and you can see quite an increase from 2020 to 2021, going from 42.2 to 55.4. These are our district level summaries. So as I mentioned, statewide rate is 87.7 with a range of, for districts, from 5% to 99.1%. Dropout rates 8.8 at the state, and our range from 0 to 95. I'll point out that if there is a district or school with a dropout rate higher than 95% or a graduation rate lower than 5%, they're truncated at 5%, 95% for student privacy reasons. So here we have a little histogram to show the distribution where the majority of the districts land in the graduation rate range. So the majority of districts we see here, 81, are in the 80 to 89.9% range on graduation rates. We have 48 that are at 90% or higher. And then our dropout rates distribution, 67 districts are in the 5 to 9.9%. And to note, 28 have dropout rates that are less than 5%. So I'll just touch, again, like I said, on some highlights from the report. We report in this table the highest graduation rates in the state and who those are. So you'll see with the Mississippi School for Math and Science at 99.1%. Anytime we have a tie for a rate, we repeat those in the table, so you'll see multiple listings here. Such as three ties at 10, ranked 10, Lowndes County, Corinth, and Calhoun County. And our lowest dropout rate, so we had some districts and schools, so special schools are reported like a district in this report. So Mississippi School for the Arts, Corinth, Mississippi School for the Blind and Deaf, all had dropout rates of 0 and are tied at the first rank in this list. And so we also report on the low end of the report. So here are our lowest graduation rates. You'll see Oakley Youth Development Center at the top. This is a program in the detention center program. and is reported because it is a component of the aggregated state data and is reported to the U.S. Department of Education along with the rest of the data that we report. But this would be our low end on the graduation rate. And then our highest dropout rates should be fairly similar in the list. Okay, so like I said, I just touched on some highlights there. Does anybody have any questions regarding this report?
Board members, do you have any questions regarding the information provided? Well, there are two takeaways since we've really been paying attention to this while I've been here, is the increase in graduation rates and conversely the decline in dropout, and the increase in the graduation rate of children with disabilities. I mean, that's pretty significant, and I think those are things that show that districts are working out there to address all of those. So we appreciate your report on that. It's good news. Okay, our next, thank you. Our next item for action is approval of Mde Contracts. Dr. Gavin, you there? I'll be so glad when we're all back around this table. All right.
We have 4 contracts that we're requesting approval from the board on. The first contract is interim superintendent for the County Public School District, Dr. Pulley's contract. The second contract that we're seeking approval on is a contract with the Mississippi Education Consortium, and this is for digital learning instruction coaches, and these coaches will be paid with our ESSER funds. The third item that we're seeking approval on, the third contract, is a contract with the Mississippi State Department of Health, and that's for our summer food service program. And the last item is our big mega contract with the North Mississippi Education Consortium. Those are the 4 contracts that we are seeking approval on today.
Okay, would you, for the new board members, would you, on item D, this is for training around the state, that the consortium provides the leadership for training?
Yes, the North Mississippi Education Consortium, they coordinate the training for the department around the state. So we have various training sites that they conduct training for us, and they basically procure all of the locations for us and provide that training and do all the sign up, all the administrative work for us.
Okay, thank you. We're going to take these, before we move, do any of you have questions about any of these contracts? Okay, we're going to take these in one motion. So the motion would be to approve items 4A, B, C, and D. Do we have a motion to? Okay.
Second, Martin McGee.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Our next item is consent agenda items. We have item A, B, C, D, and we'll take these in one motion. E, F, E, G, H, and I. There is no F. So do we have a motion to present, to approve items A, B, C, D, E, G, H, and I? Okay, do we have a motion to approve these?
So move, Angela Bass.
Okay.
Second, Karen Elam.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, thank you. Motion carries. We have no need for executive session today, so we will move to any of you have a report on any meetings that you've attended? Or do you need approval to attend any meetings? Those would be meetings that are outside the state that require travel or whatever? Well, hearing none, our April board meeting will be held on April 15th. We would like to think that it's going to be held at the Central High building. We certainly hope so, at 10 a.m. If we can get our employees that choose to vaccinated and can get water and plumbing issues, water and plumbing issues taken care of, maybe we can all gather around the table. But we appreciate your making the time to be here this morning via teleconference. So having no other business, I will entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved, Karen Elam.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second, Ronnie McGee.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you in April, if not before.